Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly believe it's all about them. And in today's episode, imagine booking a dream vacation on a cruise ship and encountering guests who think they own the ship. We've got Karens cutting lines, scamming staff, terrorizing fellow guests. This episode is wild. So sit back, relax, and seriously, try not to shake your heads too hard in this episode. Let's dive in. So last year, my boyfriend and I went on a cruise with his family. The cruise ship was on the larger scale and had many different sections and activities, one of which was an adult-only zone, located on the side of the ship. This adult-only zone included a bar, outdoor showers, and sun chairs. This particular ship allowed full nudity in the adult-only zone. So during the second day of the cruise, my boyfriend and I decide to go sunbathe in the adult-only zone. We order some delicious cocktails and we find a quiet spot to read our books. About half an hour went past when a young boy comes up to our chairs, probably around 7 years old. The kid points to my fruity cocktail and he starts to say, "What a good-looking drink. Can I have some?" I say to him, "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but this is an adult's drink. Maybe you can ask your mom or dad to get you a nice drink from upstairs." The kid then says, "No, can I just have a sip?" Right about now, my boyfriend's starting to get annoyed by this child, as he's disturbing our reading time and we're in the adult-only zone, so we shouldn't have to deal with this. My boyfriend snaps and says, "Hey, listen kid, you can't be here. Where's your parents?" The kid responds, "I don't know." At this point, I just tell him, "Okay, come with me, I can help you find your parents." I hand my drink to my boyfriend and then get up and start heading towards the bar while motioning to the kid to follow me. This little boy, however, decides to jump over my sun chair and attempt to grab my cocktail from my boyfriend's hand. My boyfriend, of course, dodges the boy and gets up from his chair, now holding both the drinks. The other guests are now looking over at us, and I'm speaking to the bartender, letting him know that there's a kid here causing havoc. And that's when I feel something hitting my butt. I look down, and I see this boy's using my butt as a punching bag. I just lean over, and I say, "Excuse me, please stop doing that. It's very inappropriate to do that to someone, and I don't like it." The boy continues to do this, but now he starts to also tug on my bikini, almost pulling it down. This is when my boyfriend walks over. He places our drinks on the bar and he grabs the boy's hand. He gets down to his level and he says, "She told you to stop touching her. Do you understand?" Cue the hysterical scream from this child. The bartender's on the phone asking for security to come over when this elderly couple approaches us to remind us that it's a child-free area. I explain that this isn't our child and he's been harassing us over cocktails. The elderly couple are now also looking around to find this demon's parents, and this is when we spot the mom casually walking towards the bar. She comes over and she asked, "Why are you people harassing my child? What's going on?" I just tell her, "Your child is the one harassing us over alcoholic drinks. He's been wanting to have a sip of my drink, and listen, this is a child-free zone, by the way." She then says to us, "Ugh, who cares about this child-free zone nonsense? I allow my child to be here. Also, there's nothing wrong with him wanting a sip. One sip isn't going to do anything, he just wants a taste." I then say to her, "Are you insane? It's alcohol, lady. It's illegal to give a minor alcohol, even if it's a sip." She then steps much closer to my face and she says to me, "Don't you effing dare tell me what to do with my son." This is when my boyfriend chimes in and he says, "You need to back away from my girlfriend. Your kid's also been inappropriately touching her and he tried to pull her bikini down after being told to stop." This is when Karen looks at my bikini and she barks and says, "Well, maybe it's because your girlfriend looks like a slut in her bikini. Not a good example to be wearing that around kids anyways." At this point, the bartender and the elderly couple step in to tell her that I'm allowed to be fully naked if I wanted to be in this area. and that she's not setting a good example for her kid by allowing him to be in a place that's not suitable for children. Security ends up coming, and they politely ask Karen and her child to leave, causing the woman to have the mother of all breakdowns. She threatened to sue the cruise ship for discrimination and also told the security officer that she would make sure he loses his job. Well, the security guy wasn't very happy about this, and he said he was gonna call his supervisor to come deal with her for threatening staff members and harassing passengers. Thankfully, the woman quickly realized that she was about to be in big trouble. She grabs her kid's hand and she practically runs out of the adult-only zone. I don't know what ended up happening after that, but we didn't see her or her child for the rest of our trip. Listen, thank goodness Karen had enough sense to leave, right? But some people's sense of entitlement though. Like, most parents will see an adults-only area and they'll think, you know what, maybe my child shouldn't be here. But no, not Karen. Like, she not only ignored that fact, but she insisted on strangers giving her son a sip of their alcoholic drinks, which is mind-blowing, guys. Because 1, germs, and 2, why does a 7-year-old really need to know what an alcoholic drink tastes like? Let me know your thoughts on this post. So this happened to me while on a vacation recently. We were on a cruise and we had just docked at port. We were all patiently waiting in line to leave the ship for shopping and activities when this wild Karen appears and she proceeds to push around the line with her kid in a stroller. I of course make a comment to my wife saying, "Hey, look at this woman who's too good to stand in line with the rest of us." Well, this woman hears me and she turns around and she screams at me that she's in a hurry and she has to leave the ship quickly. When we get to the security processing booth to exit the ship, we saw her, where karma had got her and she was stuck behind a group of older people that lost their ID cards. Me and the wife walk into a different line for the booth next to where she is, and we pass her while talking about how good it was that we didn't make the mistake of getting into the other line. When we leave the ship, she was still waiting in line. We start making our way to shore and the customs checkpoint at the end of the pier. The woman finally caught up with us right before we were in line for customs. She once again goes around the main line and she proceeds to the disabled persons line. Enter sweet karma again. Today, their customs agents in this port had dog searching for prohibited items, and guess who they immediately go and sit next to? Come to find out, this woman ignored the dozens of warnings to not bring any fruit or veggies off the ship, and she brought bananas, grapes, and various other things off the ship. The customs agents pulled her to the side and they start talking to her. We overhear that she was telling them that she had to keep the food so her kid could have snacks while she was shopping. We made our way through and we proceed into the shops. The last I saw, she was still at the checkpoint when I looked over 20 minutes later and she was yelling at the officers. That was the last I saw her, so I'm not sure what happened after that. I really do hope she got arrested or told that she couldn't leave the ship anymore. So back in 2014, I was a waiter on a cruise ship in Hawaii. The ship was in port on the northern island of Kauai, and my front waiter, who we'll call Phil, and I were working the dinner shift in the main dining hall. It was a typical steady evening until 2 ladies were seated in our section. One of the ladies, the Karen of the story, obviously had a little too much to drink. She was red in the face, drunk and giggling, you get the idea. During the dinner, the 2 ladies were having a great time. They were smiling, laughing, enjoying themselves, and they were quite pleasant to wait on. The 2 ladies finished their dinner and they left without an incident happening. Phil and I continue working, but about 20 to 30 minutes later, the drunk Karen returns. She walks right up to me and she screams in my face saying, "My purse is missing." I replied to her and said, "Well, no one sat at the table that you and your friend were at since you left. So let's go over there to see if you've left your purse behind." I start looking around the table, and that's when drunk Karen shouts, "Don't look for my purse there." Now, this of course startled me. But after a moment of being a deer caught in headlights, I ask, "Ma'am, this is where you and your friend ate your dinner. If you don't want me to look for your purse here, where should I be looking?" She then screams and says, "You and the other waiter took it. I want it back right now." Of course, I tell Karen, "Ma'am, we didn't take your purse. Is it possible that you might have left it in your cabin?" Now this pisses the drunk Karen off, and she snaps and says, "How dare you ask me such a stupid question? If I left it in my cabin, I would know. I know you two took it, and I want it back right now." With her screaming, anyone and everyone who could hear were looking at us. Phil rushes over to try to calm her down while I went to find the restaurant manager. I fill him in on what's going on, and while walking back towards Phil and Karen, I warned him saying, "Whatever you do, don't ask her if she's left her purse in her cabin." I did, and it only made her mad. The manager thanks me for the warning, but he told me he had to ask her that. It's a part of the line of questioning he had to do in this situation. Sure enough, drunk Karen gets even more pissed off when he asked her that question. So now, we have a full-scale investigation on our hands. Our section had to be closed down, and the passengers dining in the area were inconveniently moved to other sections of the restaurant. And the security team came in to question all of us. Well, drunk Karen gets even more pissed off when the security team asked if she's left her purse in her cabin. After the questioning, the security team splits up. Some went to look for Karen's friend for additional questioning, while the rest of us went to look over the security footage. They told us that this will take some time as there are multiple cameras that overlapped our section, and they had to review not only the dinner, but the 20 to 30 minutes after dinner when Karen and her friend left the restaurant. They assured her if we did steal it, they'll see it in the footage. So now, it's the restaurant manager, one security guard, drunk Karen, Phil, and myself waiting around the empty section for the security team to finish their investigation. The manager and security officer did a good job keeping Karen calm for a while, but eventually she loses her patience and she screams, "Why the F is this taking so long? I know those two stole my purse and I want it back right now. If you delay any longer, I will call the cops. I'll have someone come on board to arrest those two, and I will sue this cruise line." Upon hearing this, Phil had enough. He starts yelling back at drunk Karen, and I just pull him to the side to try to calm him down. But he gets upset at me and he says, "How can you be so calm? That lady is threatening to call the cops to have us arrested. Aren't you the least bit worried that we could be going to jail?" This is when I tell Phil, "Why should we be worried? We didn't steal her purse." The security team will verify this when they finish looking over the security footage. The purse will be found somewhere and everything will be fine. We have nothing to worry about. This did no good calming Phil down, so I tried to change my tactics and I just said, "Think of it this way, we're both still on the clock. We're getting paid right now to stand around and do nothing while we wait for the security team to finish this investigation. Think of it like we're getting an extra paid break during what would otherwise be a standard busy dinner shift." Phil didn't find this amusing, and he yells back saying, "Why aren't you taking this seriously? We could be going to jail and you're making jokes. Don't you have any pride? Where's your integrity?" So at this point, Phil's yelling at me, drunk Karen's yelling at us, and Phil's yelling back at the drunk Karen. Things were kind of getting out of hand. Fortunately, a short while later, Karen's friend walks back to the restaurant with the missing purse. When asked where she found the purse, you've probably guessed it by now. It was in drunk Karen's cabin the whole time. I didn't think her face could get any more red from the booze she drank and from how angry she was. But the woman turned 3 shades of red darker from sheer embarrassment. She snatches the purse from her friend's hands and she runs out of the restaurant. The friend tries to apologize on Karen's behalf, but Phil rejected it. He yells out, "That stupid lady came in here and she accused us of stealing her purse. She then threatened to call the cops and have us arrested, and when the purse was found, she just runs out of here without apologizing to us. You can tell your friend that she's a bitch. The restaurant manager knew emotionally that Phil was in no condition to keep working, so he tells him to clock off for the rest of the night to calm down, and that he can clock back in the next day once he's done so. The manager then apologizes to me, and he asked if I can do the close down procedure for our section on my own. I had no problem with this, since when I was done, I would still be clocking off half an hour earlier than usual. As I was finishing up, the manager calls me into his office and he says, "I just want to thank you for how you handled the situation earlier tonight. You were so calm and collected while Phil lost his cool. Please don't think I was rewarding Phil by letting him off early for his bad behavior. You acted like the experienced front waiter while he acted like the immature back waiter. He wasn't in the right mindset to continue working tonight, and I promise, in the next week or two, I will find a night to give you off as a reward for how you responded to this situation." Drunk Karen never did return to the main dining hall to apologize in person, but she did write an apology letter, which she had her friend deliver on her behalf. Phil was still pissed, and he wanted to tear up the letter in a horrible rage. This time, I did manage to calm him down, and I convinced him to be the bigger man and just accept the letter. It might not be the apology that he wanted, but we're still receiving an apology in the end. What a mess that was, and gotta love the fact that her way of taking responsibility in the end was getting her friend to deliver the apology on her behalf. Which who even knows if she wrote it, right? And this person comments, "People suck. I ran a bar and restaurant for years, and one time a lady left her purse. We stayed late after she called, and we made sure she received her purse back that night, and not even a thank you." So I wasn't really inconvenienced by this one, but it's always super neat to see entitled people out in the wild. My boyfriend and I went on our first cruise a few weeks ago, and it was a wonderful experience. I would definitely recommend if you could save up like we did. Anyways, we went to one of their restaurants on board, which is a Korean barbecue style restaurant. Like most Korean barbecues, if you're a party of two, you get sat with strangers. We were sat with two couples, one of which was very lovely. We chat about our jobs and they were pleasant. The other couple, however, was an old couple from hell. To start, the waitress has us playing a drinking game with a bottle of soju, but the old folk both immediately lost on purpose so they could drink. If that wasn't bad enough, the whole time they were talking about how they've been on over 100 cruises. How they've been on more than 10 Virgin Voyages cruises, and they basically own this ship, verbatim what they said. Then, they flaunt how rich they are, how they have 2 homes, and the husband gifted his wife a second home for Mother's Day a few years back. How they're considering buying a 3rd home in Florida because they're bored of the 2 they do have. How they don't bother renting out their homes or let anyone stay when they're not using it because it's way too much hassle and we don't need the money. The whole time I'm thinking, okay, the husband was the quieter one, but he did the most bragging. He told us how he's the casino staff's favorite because he brings them pizzas every night. And yes, he goes to the restaurant on the ship and he orders a huge stack of free-to-him pizzas. He holds up the line of people who just want some dinner and he brings the pizzas to the casino staff while they're working and they can't eat, which is also a weird brag, but okay. Now Miss Karen was so rude to the waitress the entire night. She tried to order for the entire table saying, "All of us just want that steak. Just bring us a bunch of that steak. Don't bring any of the other Korean crap." The very kind Korean waitress takes our orders of the other Korean crap and she ends up bringing a bit of everything because the rest of us wanted it. And Karen had the nerve to yell at the waitress for cooking things that weren't the steak. At one point, she actually says out loud to her, "Hey, don't you cook none of that. We're not gonna eat that. That's gross." And we all thought, speak for yourself, Karen. The woman was so rude the entire night, not to mention racist to the waitress. And they ran off early, thank goodness, because they wanted to get to the casino to gamble as soon as it opened, but not before purchasing what I'm pretty sure was a $60 bottle of soju. I felt so bad for the waitress. I can't imagine having to wait on people like that and having to be as pleasant as possible and not even getting tips. My boyfriend and I were the last at the table and we chatted with her for a while. She was super duper nice and I hope she's doing well and she doesn't have to put up with those people again when they do their 11th cruise. Like, how have you been on this earth for 60 plus years and not know how to be kind to wait staff? Honestly, it's because some people don't see waitstaff as human beings. They simply just want service. But what an insufferable couple, guys. And this person says, thankfully, most cruise passengers aren't like this because if every ship was filled with people like this, we'd need a lot more lifeboats. And my question is, why even go to a Korean restaurant in the first place if all you're gonna be doing is complaining about the dishes you don't like? Like, how dare you? And if you think that restaurant couple was bad, listen to this next post where a cruise Karen throws a tantrum. A long time ago, I worked at a crazy popular restaurant with a huge outdoor deck on the ocean. The place was right next to a cruise ship terminal, so we literally watched thousands of people disembark and hundreds head for our restaurant at the same time. Needless to say, we would be packed with a line out the door at these times. When this happened, a group of 6 who were on a cruise came in. One of them says to me, "And we want to sit on the ocean to keep the cruise vibe going." Which I thought, okay, you and everyone else. I tell them it's a 30 to 45 minute wait unless they want to eat indoors, which is quicker. They grumble, but they can see that we're swamped and they begrudgingly accept the pager I give them, insisting they need to sit on the ocean. I inform them that ticket times right now are currently higher than normal, being that the cruise ship just dropped off hundreds of people. They say that's fine. I tell them, great, hang out over there and I'll buzz you. 20 minutes go by and this younger lady from the group approaches me at the front desk. She's waving the pager around screaming, "Is this damn thing broken? This thing must be broken. We've been waiting for 1 hour." To which I thought, no you haven't. I spin the computer around to show her that in fact, you've been here literally 21 minutes, and you're gonna have to wait at least 10 to 20 more minutes. She throws a minor hissy fit in front of the other guests in the lobby, but they're definitely not on her side. So back to the waiting area she goes. We get them set at a picnic table on the front water, prime real estate. This was about 40 minutes from when I quoted her, so I had 5 minutes to spare. The rest of her group's happy with the spot and they look hungry and ready to order. I motion over their server Leah and I say, let's get this order in quickly. But not good enough for Karen. She again complains that they waited 1 hour, which again 40 minutes, and that they should get free appetizers and drinks at the very least. Now me, I'll always admit a mistake on our part and make it right, but we did quote her and gave her the best table possible and still came in under time. This is business as usual, but sometimes I am a nice guy and I realize people are hangry, low blood sugar, and they need some love. So I ask Karen, have you ever had the she crab soup? She looks bewildered and she shakes her head. I say, I'm gonna bring you some she crab soup. The group orders entrees and apps at the same time. Leah asked if they want her to bring it all together, but they say, bring the apps first and then fire the entrees. So Leah does just that, and it takes about 20 plus minutes for them to come up. Since we have a problem child, I run the apps personally. I put fried green tomatoes, crab cakes, and of course, the delicious she crab soup on a tray. I drop the apps on the table, and like a scene in The Matrix, I watch one of Miss Problem Child's curly red 10-inch hairs slow motion fall from her own head into the bowl of soup I've just presented. She looks down and she freaks the heck out. She starts screaming, saying, "Your hair's in this soup. This is disgusting. You need to remake this entire order and comp us." And y'all, I'm bald. I shave my head every day. So as gently as I can, I tell her that I watched her own hair fall into the soup, and I insist it's not mine. She's in an outrage though. She's calling me a liar and insisting that I did this on purpose because I didn't like her. She demands I remake the entire order. The rest of the table at this point is super uncomfortable. They see she's in a mini rage world and they insist it's fine, let's just eat. But no. She refuses, and again, she demands I remake the entire order. So I give her what she wants. I say, "Yes, ma'am," and I scoop off everything off the table onto my tray. Appetizers, beverages, plates, and silverware. I then say, "Okay, let's start over and hopefully we can get off on a new foot." By the way, I mentioned that ticket times were long as the cruise ship just docked, so it may be a while to get a new course of appetizers to you. We'll do our best though, as busy as we are. I'll have some new beverages out to you as soon as Leah can slow down. I then go into my kitchen and I tell my slam sous chef Brian that I need a refire on that ticket. He's a loud and angry dude, and initially he screams at me. But on the plus side, he's also incredibly vindictive. So when I tell him this one's about sending a message, he smiles and he puts the ticket at the end of the line. 2 hours later, the table finished and they left Leah a 30% tip. And guess who didn't pay the bill? The worst part of the story is she never got to try the she crab soup. Back in 2008, my partner and I took a cruise through South America. Now picture this. 3 days in Rio during Carnival, a week of debauchery on the high seas, and wrapping up in a fabulous Buenos Aires. Pure bliss. Well, mostly. Now, my partner and I weren't exactly rolling in it. We were cabin poor, but we splurged on a few nights at a nice hotel after the cruise. Turns out, so did half the queens on that ship. By 10 a.m., there was a line snaking out the lobby doors. All of us hung over and politely waiting our turn to drop bags and wander off until check-in. When enter them. A couple behind us decided that they were simply too important to wait. One of them had some VIP, ultra diamond, titanium, whatever status with the hotel, which supposedly came with early check-in. The clerk, who had the patience of a saint, explained that the early check-in was based on availability, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, there wasn't any availability. But these two, oh no. These two lost their entitled minds. Voices were raised, the clerk's intelligence was questioned, her English, which was impeccable but slightly accented, was heavily mocked. It was full Karen energy, but double-barrel gay edition. Security had to step in. When it was finally our turn, I felt like I needed to make amends for the sins of our people. I apologized to the clerk and told her that nobody should be spoken to like that, and I casually mentioned how much we appreciated her professionalism. We had a lovely chat about travel and the cruise, while she processed what I assumed was a placeholder for when check-in time rolled around. Except it wasn't. With a smile, she hands us 2 keys for a suite, which happened to be a massive suite with a stunning view and a rooftop pool right down the hall. She then says with a wink, "Enjoy your stay," and enjoy we did. So to the entitled couple who screamed their way into oblivion, gracias, darlings, that view was everything. Yeah, I can only imagine, and if I were in Opie's shoes, those views would be extra breathtaking with all the karmic justice in the air. And guys, this is why it pays to be nice, especially to service people, because you have no idea the power one might have and what they can hook you up with. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode, where psycho Karen bosses are getting taught lessons left and right, guys. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.